Meow meow. Damn, I think I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go poopy. Ah. Anyway. Meow 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 meow.
Here, who is the strongest class in Darktide? I think it would be nice to talk about the current power level of all the classes.
Oh yeah, no, I've been playing Zealot like yesterday or last night, you know. It was not really my first time. You know, I played Zealot once before and then kinda did some grinding yesterday.
And
After this match, you want us to go?
give you something like a rank ordering of who is strongest and who is weakest and what kinds of strengths and weaknesses each class has. Before I go much further, though, I want to say one thing. In my opinion, the overall discrepancy between classes really isn't all that big. There definitely are some outliers in performance with specific builds and weaponry that push certain things and certain classes into a broken position in the game, and I will call those out. But every single class has something that is broken. Every class does something special that makes it insane. Every class brings value to a team in ways that are powerful. But we all love a good rank order, so let's...
You know what I like about the Zealot class? It's very good for toughness.
To start with, we probably need to define a criteria for strongness. Just saying the strongest doesn't really tell us much. So, first, I want to say...
You know, I really appreciate how good other people's videos are. You know, my PC cannot run it that nicely.
That I'll be measuring against Havoc 40 as the
even with lots of enemies and effects.
barometer. Although I do think the game should be balanced around Auric, the game is pretty power crept right now, and most of the cracks don't show in any given thing until you get to Havoc. So, with that in mind, our criteria will be damage output, survivability, and utility to the team. In that order. Note, please, that I did not say ease of play. I'll certainly mention things that are easy versus things that are hard. However, the skill floor of a thing...
For me, Zealot is very nice. It's like the Berserker.
Matters, of course, but the skill ceiling in this game is vast. And just because someone of a middling skill can't access something's power doesn't mean power isn't there. So we're going to be as agnostic as I can be about this and focus in on where the real power of each class lies. So let's just jump right into it, and I don't think anyone's going to be surprised to hear this, but my opinion right now is that Psyker is still the strongest class in the game.
Oh, nice. Well, I like playing Psyker, you know, I feel like I'm Lisa. Like I'm Lisa from Genshin Impact, but with guns. Hold on, let me look for my phone.
The game. Damage output. It has some of the easiest available damage options with infinite cleave, damage over time application by an Inferno staff, or massive stagger and damage, and also dot application with Void Blast staff. If that wasn't enough, both of these things have infinite ammo. And if that wasn't enough, this class also has access to both the Dueling Sword and the Demos Force Sword, and even the Force Greatsword, for armor busting in melee where needed with adequate boss damage on a typical build. However, if you don't like ranged space magic, the Scryer's Gaze melee build was recently buffed and is also now quite mad with insane uptime and serious damage. Plus, the Force Greatsword's sweeping magic blow thing has insane damage output on its own merits. Survivability. Once upon a time, Psyker had bad toughness generation outside of certain conditions. This issue is gone. Now Psyker is tanky as hell as long as you are halfway decent at dodging. The capacity to regenerate...
I'm not good at dodging.
toughness...
I never dodge.
protect yourself with bubbles or space magic blocks is incredibly strong. There's really only one weakness here, which is that the class is susceptible to getting one shot by overheads from maulers and crushers. Otherwise, this class is plenty tanky relative to other classes and has great dodges and stamina regeneration to provide plenty of local defensive utility where needed. Utility to the team. Psyker has one of the best high difficulty utilities available in the form of Bubble. Shriek has okay stagger, but really Bubble is what we care about in terms of utility.
I never use Bubble.
It provides team-wide toughness regeneration, it provides range safety from dangerous shooters and flamers, snipers and trackers, it provides safety from Beast of Nurgle, and we hate Beast of Nurgle here. It's a one-stop shop for great team utility. The class also has great little CDR boosts built in for abilities, and that's powerful too. Plus, if you choose to run Void Blast over Inferno, then we also get to enjoy a lot of extra stagger. Technically, Smite also exists, but man, it's boring to play around, so most people wisely don't run it, so we can all still play the video game instead of a shooting game. Ease. I am not rating power based on ease of use, but there's no denying that the Inferno Staff is one of the easiest ways to maximize value in the game. You just spray everything, and it withers and dies. It's not hard at all. Plus, you can press your alt button and get a safety bubble or vent all of your perils. This means that any random player is going to have a tremendous amount of damage while also having a tremendous amount of team safety, and all you really need to do is not stand in the wrong spot while doing this all game long. Tips. Psyker is mostly about ability management and positioning, but one thing bad Psyker players all have in common is a heavily neglected melee skill set. If you can't comfortably fight 3 to 4 crushers in melee without dying, then you should probably practice melee more. The number one way that I see bad Psykers die in Havoc 40 is getting overwhelmed in otherwise easy melee situations. Hope that helps. Hive Scum. Alright, this one is going to take some explaining and it will probably surprise some people. Because the last time I talked about this, I was like, well, I think this class is on par in terms of damage output, but that's really not what it is. At the end of all of my testing and review of the class's outputs and playing a lot of games as this class, I'm really unable to say anything other than that this class has some of the highest damage output in the game into all targets. This class really is a glass cannon after all. Honestly, some of the better players I know actually think this class is stronger than Psyker, but personally I still rate it a bit below, mostly because it definitely has a higher skill floor and it also doesn't have as much access to infinite cleave options as the Psyker does. The potential is higher on Psyker in terms of raw numbers. But in the practical realities of this game, things are not as clear-cut. In my view, this class has the Psyker class beat on a positional advantage basis and has access to actually delivering its damage much more easily and efficiently. Damage output. Okay, we're going to belabor this a bit so I can explain. Consider grabbing a drink and a snack so you can settle in. Let's talk about Melee Scum first, because I think it really sort of drives the point home the best. Let's just take Shivs and Rampage as our example, since it's the most familiar. If I were to ask you who and with what equipment has the best melee output in the game, or probably does anyway, prior to Scum's release, a great guess would have been Zealot with Martyrdom and Relic Blade. Alternatively, a solid competitor with superior armor penetration but worse support clear would be the same, but with Dueling Sword 4. There's other good options on Zealot, of course, but we're talking about peaks and valleys here, so I'm trying to pick from the best. Other competitors might be veteran with the Power Sword. Well, I have tested all of that into all the targets that I have. And here's the lay of the land. Into Scab, Ragers, and Bruisers, and into my 100 Trash Horde test for Havoc 40, the Shivs are right in competition with the Relic Blade for clear times into the Relic Blade's best targets, with both classes using their ultimate ability. For Trash Hordes, it's just about 16 seconds for the Relic Blade and merely 18 seconds for the Shivs. We're not even using Stim, by the way. With nearly 25 seconds for the Power Sword, and the best dueling sword time I found was on Zealot with Martyrdom at 32 seconds. For the Ragers and Bruisers group, we are talking about 14 seconds for Relic Blade, and 14.23 seconds for the Shivs. Again, not even using Stim. Meanwhile, our dueling sword is at 25, and our Power Sword is at 30. That's not even talking about how unsafe using the Power Sword is due to its horrible fat and slow dodges. Man, I do not like this thing. Then we get into the Crushers and Maulers test. This is where the cracks start to show for most equipment. The Dueling Sword 4 picks up an impressive 25 seconds time, one of the best of any weapon that I have tested. Martyrdom Zealot is only a few seconds faster than Veteran in this case, by the way. But Relic Blade is at 35 seconds, and Power Sword is at 38 seconds. But the Shivs are all the way down to 17 seconds. There's basically nothing I have in the melee category that does that as fast. It's so strong. But we next have to talk about an active Plague Ogryn in Havoc 40, because in the original conversation about this, for whatever reason, we were using Auric Plague Ogryns. Well, I can't get under 10 seconds for Hivescum into that target, though that is still really fast. But once we hit Havoc 40, Hivescum starts to shine. Relic Blade, assuming we are not doing stealth backshot builds, is pulling 37 seconds. Dueling Sword's best time across any class was 28.5 seconds for Veteran. The Power Sword on Veteran when using Focus Target was 21 seconds, but that includes me throwing all 4 crack grenades at it for both Veteran tests. Despite this, the Shivs pulls out ahead at 16 seconds with Rampage and Stim. This does decline a bit to about 22 seconds or so with just Rampage, no Stim. We're not using Needle Pistol either for these tests, to my surprise, because it actually isn't making a difference somehow. We're not using any ammo or any other abilities to get these times. Now, my best Power Sword and Dueling Sword times for that matter.
I think I'm gonna get coffee. I don't really know what my my plans for today and tomorrow are. I gotta adjust my sleep. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna go to sleep at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. Well, I don't know. So right now, let me get some coffee.
It is the 41st millennium.
I'm back with my coffee and I think I'm gonna go to the bathroom. It's taking so long. Hold on. Sorry I took so long. And that's my zealot. Another load time.
Both require 4 crack grenades, and one of them to trigger Twin Blast, otherwise it's actually slower than purely melee. Alternatively, just in melee, the time is marginally worse, so weirdly, throwing cracks is less effective in Havoc 40 boss tests than I would have guessed by quite a lot. Though you should still do it in real games because it isn't meaningfully slower than hitting it in melee, and it's way safer for you and the team. The only way to shorten these times that I have found for veteran is to also spend an entire magazine of bolt gun ammunition, and you have to land most of them, if not all of them, on headshots, and you have to be using puncture for bleed. In which case, I get about 13.9 seconds, spending an entire magazine of ammo, and my crack grenades, and shout, and then stabbing it with focus target. Otherwise, everything else in the game is slower than Shiv's Rampage Scum with his class stim in play. So let me give you the TLDR, the basic gestalt. Every other class in the game has at least some kind of trade-off into at least one group of enemies, usually more different types of targets, in terms of raw time to kill performance. For example, the Relic Blade is good into most things, but does slow down a bit into bosses, and also into armored groups, though it's certainly not bad. It's quite good. Hive Scum, running Rampage and Shivs, does not. You are as good as a Relic Blade into Trash and Light Elites, and you are better than everyone into Crushers and Maulers and Havoc 40 Plague Ogrins. You are effectively the best at everything in the same build. No trade-offs required besides your ability downtime management, and even during downtime, as I have shown in my previous video, you are quite comparable to other classes into most trash targets anyway. But wait, what about support builds? Well, with booby-trapped stim supply and pickpocket applying to needle pistol, you are effectively looking at an anti-armor Inferno Psyker. This is literally a ranged dueling sword with infinite ammo and
Damn, I don't know.
some cleave capacity if you're using
I don't know if I'm gonna adopt these or not.
a special shot. I consistently, in my pub games,
Probably not, because I always, I just do general purpose.
compete with or outcompete Inferno Psyker. Inferno Psyker, the most broken thing in the game, on Stim Crate support builds because of this set of weaponry. Then we have Desperado builds. It's kind of the same deal here, technically lower performance into tightly packed groups of trash, dregs, flak, etc. Anything but armor, of course, is not a good target for this, just like the Inferno Staff, by the way. But still insanely fast time to kills on an infinite ammo platform, and that's not even talking about the utility of Desperado builds and being able to sprint to funny off angles and annihilate groups of enemies that no one else can challenge. I also tend to compete favorably with Psyker players with these builds. If you personally are having armor problems, just take Shivs. Problem solved. This is the same way, by the way, that Psyker solves the armor issue for himself, and at about the same time to kill pacing, too, for the record. So, the basic gestalt is that Hive Scum has 3 valid builds, and every single one of them is absolutely competing for best time to kill values when compared against the best options for other classes into those targets for each of the other classes. And given the most OP selections within the Hive Scum class, you can be favorably compared to the most OP class in the game in terms of damage output. And we haven't even talked about the rocket launcher or the chem grenades yet, which I almost always manage to have plenty of in Havoc because everyone feeds Hive Scum the grenades for reasons that are obvious to anyone who has seen them. Survivability. Now I know the class just caught a technical nerf because ranged dodge linger bug got deleted. Originally everyone I know found this class hard to play, including me, which is why I originally urged patience and practice on the fundamentals as the class settled into people's hands. But I have to say, now that I'm used to it, Jittery and Nimble combined are absolutely nutty for survivability. I am having no special trouble staying alive in Havocs right now, even after the dodge linger change reversion. I am just sliding a bit more, and frankly, I am feeling safer on this class half the time than other classes. It's kind of funny. I mean, a while back I made a whole video about how important Until Death and Holy Revenant are to Zealot, because I just don't agree that leaving the safety blankets behind and just playing better makes any sense. And I still hold to that, at least for other classes. But unlike any other class, Hive Scum has actual tools, talents in the tree to make not getting hit and just play better a literally valid approach. I can actually just not get hit most of the game on this class. If that wasn't enough, though, I find that his toughness regeneration is actually really quite fine. As long as you're actually not getting hit sequentially that much, you can rebuild back to 100% toughness with relative ease, just by slapping around heads in melee, especially with chem-based attacks, or shooting a few guys in a Desperado build. You can pop a stim for passive regeneration if you're building chem dependency, which you usually are on melee builds, or use your ability regen to regen toughness too. There's always opportunities to get it back as long as you stay mobile. I would actually say I down less on this class than any other class at this point. Technically, the class is made out of glass
What the frick?
pure raw face tanking.
Oh man, come on, man. What the frick? You waited for so long. What the frick, man? See? See my issues with Dark Tide loading times, connection.
But in practical terms, I can avoid damage so well that I feel tougher than other classes most of the time. Utility to the team. This class has two major utilities to the team: Stim Crate and Grenades. It also has minor utility in that it consumes effectively no ammo itself, like Psyker, and can create ammo sharing opportunities via its ammo share aura. This turns Havoc ammo packs from like 50% to around 70% refills for the team, and can be a huge deal for an ammo-strapped team. Besides this, the class is very DPS oriented, I will say. In some ways, this is very Inferno Psyker, but it doesn't even offer the stagger that Inferno Staff can provide. In general, this class in Havoc is the DPS class, even on its support build. Still, the CDR, attack speed and strength, and rending you get from this class's Stim Crate is really quite good and should not be ignored. Oh, and I will say Blue Trap does offer stagger and damage, so that can be a nice reset button in a bad situation on a cooldown. But the grenades are really what this class brings to the table for support. This class has, far and away, incomparably, the strongest grenades in the game. The rocket launcher just deletes whatever grenade having, and you usually have 3 to 4 of these freaking things. I genuinely have so many of them per Havoc game, I really never fear firing one off just to stabilize the situation. Meanwhile, chem grenades, ironically, actually got power crept by the rocket launcher, but are still disgustingly powerful at eliminating everything but the armor, which makes them amazing by themselves. In both cases, these grenades are room clear, wave clear, solve all my problems buttons. They will rescue a game if something is off the rails or prevent one preemptively from being ruined. Ease.
This class
plays very differently than other classes, and for that reason, I love it. But the skill floor on this class is pretty high. You're going to have good footwork, or even the easiest build on this class is not going to be getting quite as much value. Stim Crate builds and Desperado both have mechanics that can keep you surprisingly safe, but in every case, it's not enough to just stand smartly. You gotta have that move, or you're going to get pancaked at some point. Tips. People have been asking me how to play this class without dodging. Trick. It's easy. Dodge more. Take Jittery and Nimble. Dodge. Watch how quickly that dodge comes back. Dodge again immediately. Make this a habit. Just kind of do it anytime there's bad guys around. Automate it. You do have to watch out for low stamina situations, but just hold block and watch your bar like a hawk for the refresh and you will make it. Veteran is an incredibly strong class right now. Huge damage output, and genuinely some of the best situational.
I forgot to check out the ranged weapons.
Greetings.
Oh my. There you go. Flamer, baby. It's my first time to play Flamer.
Resource dependent, burst damage available in the game. As a class, he also has access to team distributed gold.
Ammunition have gained control of a complex transmission station in the Hourglass. Its heretical broadcasts are undermining
It's pretty
morale
loud.
and even causing some to question their faith. Terminate the signal and
Excuse
gather intel
me.
on the point of origin. We need to know where it's coming from.
Oh, hell yeah.
Seeking the sun,
And then I'm
but its light will
using
not avail those who are willfully
incendiary
blind.
grenades.
Another faithless heretic comes crawling out of the sand. Whose name should I put on the execution warrant?
We have no need of names, you and I. Our roles were set long ago. I am a herald of rebirth, and you will die.
Many have tried to kill me. I'm still here.
All stories come to an end, blind one. You will drown in ignominy.
Much as I'd love to make a frontal assault, you'll be creeping in through what's left of the ventilation system.
Feel thyself! Found a switch!
Meow meow meow.
I am one of the best.
The best of dead!
That is a redundant.
I don't think this is good for armored enemies. No?
These are the followers with whom you would remake the world and herald a rebirth? Disappointing.
It's very noisy also.
We care for the words of a blind woman, drowning in her own false piety.
You know, chainsaws are not very cool.
Would you look at that? The Ranger's dead!
They're not good for armored enemies.
Oh, look at the size of that one!
I don't like the flavor.
There can be no mercy!
It's easier to feel hopeful when you can see the sun, isn't it?
That's what I like to do. You know, I like to rev it up and then really sink it deep into the big enemies. I'm fighting fire with fire.
Where ye can threat, dog fire!
I don't like the flavor. It's not very strong. And it's, you know, it's like semi-automatic. There's a delay.
I know all about you, Augustine. Where you came from, who you are.
Am I supposed to find that concerning?
The past is always closer than we think.
Medication station!
Oh no, not me. And then it's used now.
This is the ventilation access point.
Incendiary grenades.
Power to activate the turbine brake.
You know, I noticed that now the enemies avoid the flames. Yeah, I don't really like the flamer.
Stick to the group.
Turns out to be a liability.
The first is done.
And I like the shock ball better. You know, once you press C, your character won't immediately do it.
Hold fast, Guardian! A veteran should be hired readily.
You know,
That's the power restored. Now for the circuit breakers. The turbine's blowing. Time to move on.
Zola be a tool of righteous purpose. Pay heed, kindred, and ye'll yet be blessed.
My faith is lacking. My patience is. Trust your own faith, kindred. Not that of others.
You're almost to the concept. Going. Make your way through the shanty town. Don't concern yourself about innocence. There are none here.
yeah, but I like how they burn. And I like how my chainsaw dings into them. Really like the rev it up. There.
Your wrath is nothing to mine, Ranger.
Christ, you need to get up!
But you know, man, the most useful thing with Cycle for me is the making them stagger. It's very useful. It's very useful to avoid those things like trappers, box hounds,
With the God Emperor beside us,
box bursters, and I think mutants also. Like it's instead of them getting you, you can stagger them, make them stagger.
To think you were so nearly one of us. Perhaps you may yet be so.
But for Zealot, it's the opposite. You charge into them. I think I really have to build my melee for this class. It's a good thing my mastery carries over, no?
Shut his throat! Found a place to live. Worst place to get into a firefight.
the God Emperor favors you!
And let's dig our chainsword into that grey goblin.
Fall back, Kindred, to battle!
There. I'm doing much damage to it. Oh yeah.
We triumph in the God Emperor's name! Feast on defeat, Ranger!
Raise your slave! Listen, flame!
As you enter the complex, our friend is sure to have arranged a surprise.
G as in wolf. Meow meow meow.
Heretic Ranger's dead and gone!
Let's use this!
Lay down your weapons. All are welcome in the grandfather's sight.
Don't waste your breath. My operatives are loyal. They guide me and I to them.
Then we shall be sure to give you the opportunity
Thanks, sige, uncle.
A mighty blow!
Driven it back. The bridge should respond now.
Ay, maligno yun. Ay, maligno.
Demon hasn't given up. Drive it back and get that bridge in position.
No. Frick. He's very dangerous. I'm all by myself.
No! What have you done? Blasphemers!
I think that means you're clear to align the last bridge. You'll need to break the demon's grip on the controls. You know what to do.
Come get him from there!
I want that signal silent. Now. Hold your ground. This won't take long.
My message cannot be stopped. It is the truth.
Oh no.
To know where that signal's coming from.
On the flames. I love it.
Just needed to gather my thoughts.
Underway. Hold your ground.
I am a vessel of holy heat.
Almost done. Let the Emperor's truth ring out once more. Almost. This has been a good day.
We will revenge ourselves upon you for this
Burn, heretics. Let's get to extraction. Okay, I don't like the flamer. You know, I've tried the combat shotgun. But of course, I enjoyed the Shredder Auto Pistol first. I think I also like the double-barreled shotgun. And then I also love the option for the chainsword to like make it stick on the enemy, especially the big ones. As for the bolt pistol, I don't think I'm gonna do well with it.
Toughness and good stagger tools would make him a powerful team member. His easy and frequent grenade regen and ammo regen affords him tons of resources, including stagger and ammo processing. His only real struggle is mobility, which can be mitigated with resource expenditure and good positioning. Damage output. As a class, the melee damage on his two most OP weapons is very competitive with other options, but require trade-offs. If you're using Dueling Sword, you're getting mobility and armor damage, but losing out on peak boss damage a little and definitely suffering from mediocre trash clear. On the other hand, the Power Sword has excellent all-target damage and basically top-of-the-line boss damage at the cost of more modest armor damage in Havoc 40 anyway, that does cost stamina to deliver, and really god-awful mobility. He does bring to the table a reliable way to deploy to maximum effect the Plasma Gun and Bolt Gun and Lucius Las Gun. If that all wasn't enough, he has access to a renewable, though temporarily depletable, resource in his grenades. Shredders are an impressive stagger and damage utility with infinite bleed stacking, while cracks are able to thin out armor waves with ease and do good damage to bosses, including stagger. And this is able to be done repeatedly all game long. Survivability. As a class, Vet has some great survivability tools, but Shout, Gold Toughness, Toughness Regen on Exi stance, even Stealth if you really want to. But beyond that, the class has great toughness damage reduction across the board and good stagger tools. However, as a melee player, I find you have to play very technically on Vet, because he's less responsive than the classes I'm used to. His dodges are kind of slow, and he has poor dodge and stamina recovery on the greater whole. This can be mitigated with good middle field play and smart positioning, but in those circumstances where you really get yourself surrounded, Vet tends to feel worse than dedicated melee characters if you don't have any resources to take yourself out with. In general, though, a good player shouldn't be going down much because this class has great preemptive tools like grenades, shout, stagger, and very impressive damage output. It's possible to even survive pressure overhead if you have gold toughness up, but if you're caught without it, then you'll suffer the same fate as Psyker and Hivescum and get to experience the world in 2D. Utility to the team. Besides ample damage, Veteran offers up gold toughness to the team in his most popular builds. Gold toughness and the associated shout stagger can save the team from incoming bursters, overheads, and whatever else, refreshing missing toughness from wounded players, providing fantastic utility right when it counts. If that wasn't enough, his most popular aura, Survivalist, drastically improves ammo supplies for the team where ammo can be tight. Plus, Veteran uses grenades, but rarely needs to pick any up because his grenade generation is extremely rapid compared to anyone else. This means he spares the grenade boxes for other players while still getting to throw out volleys of armor clear or stagger and infinite AoE. This leads to tremendous damage spikes out of the Veteran right around the time that the game is trying to damage spike your team into the ground. While Weapon Specialist does afford better mobility and power in melee, Focus Target has been subject to a fair bit of conversation lately, and this is a tremendous boon to the team as a power bomb vet and the team in general, so that's neat too. Ease. Vet is what I consider sort of a medium difficulty class. You have to be pretty competent at melee because his dodges and stamina aren't great, but if you are decent at evasion and know your way around a melee fight, he hits plenty hard. Plus his range damage is stellar and guns are easy enough to use. Even if you can't aim that well, he has options like the plasma gun, and hurling grenades is not hard. Tips. My one tip for Vet is to practice your positioning. If you get hit, ask where you could have been that would have been preventing that. Vet is not a hypermobile class and favors being in the right place to deliver value from safety, choosing his fights with intentionality, not reactively. Zealot. The position of this class has been up for debate a bit in the community, but I'm putting it solidly in 4th place. However, I do not regard Zealot as at all weak. He is an absolute unit, super hard to kill, especially with the new Fat Mangus build going around, and if that wasn't enough, his best weapons genuinely do spit out damage into most targets and do just fine into the evil spooky armored ones, as I have showed in my TTKs for the Relic Blade. Ultimately, this class just dishes out what you put in terms of personal skill. The better you are at melee, and the more confidently you can choose aggression over passivity, the better your output will be. A good zealot can push areas no one else is willing to move into and survive mosh pits no one else would live through. Damage output. The right gear on this guy goes hard in melee and never runs out of ammo. If that wasn't enough, he can one-shot bosses with the right build. Ultimately, this class lets you melee all game long, and you really aren't looking to use your ranged weapons, which will free up consumable resources for other players, unless you're dumb like me and shoot everything. Good zealot players can chew through some of the most insane situations and still come out on top, which is why it retains its position as one of the best solo classes in the game. Flamer is very impressive for his infinite cleave damage, of course, but mostly what Flamer is good into, so is the Relic Blade and Eviscerator and everything else on Zealot. So I find, in most cases, I would rather use a more mobile ranged weapon most of the time that's specialized for dealing with shooters, gunners, and specialists. A good Zealot player behind the wheel will often surprise you with how much damage he is able to put out and how many key targets he can eliminate in a short amount of time. Plus, throwing knives are, in the right hands, a renewable resource that keeps the most dangerous enemies like trappers and dogs constantly crushed down so that the whole team benefits from having infinite ammo specialist sniper doing the frontlining work. Survivability. Putting aside the fact that the new Fat Magus build really eats up damage and keeps going on forever, Zealot has always been the last player to die. Until Death and Holy Revenant are literally a death do-over ability every 120 seconds. His absurd access to damage reduction and his easy toughness regeneration on common melee, and even ranged tools make him tough as nails. Despite some qualms with the nerfed chorus cooldown, a lot of his changes actually noticeably boosted his melee performance over where he was, including cleave and damage, and attack speed nodes that are effectively free real estate.
It's free real estate.
Utility to the team. There's several utilities Zealot provides to the team, but he's always been more of a melee DPS class. Chorus is an incredibly powerful AoE, turn off the game button that also provides golden toughness, but it's always been an ability that roughly halves the damage output of Zealot in exchange, even accounting for the Flamer. As strong as it is, its cooldown is a bit more punishing than it used to be, and requires at least a little thought to get good timing and value out of. Besides that, Zealot has stealth for clutch reses and sunstorm grenades for AoE stagger utility, but mostly he's just a stable DPS.
Maybe I shouldn't use flame grenades. Immolation.
Ominous sire be praised. Tertiary assets have located a foundry flex
What's this?
void. With access to such facilities, we can produce the Lothian steel of old, rather than the substandard modern formulation. Initiate contact with our informant. Follow his instructions and wake the foundry flex. Understood?
Adobe Acrobat Studio is on you. What can PDF spaces with AI do? To a sales invoice good enough to eat. Adobe Express brings the heat. Now we're talking, it's time to share. Every page, every doc, everything's right there. Now you can do that. Do that with the all-new Acrobat.
Pag mojito ang una mong matry, lasa palang trip mo na. Sa una pa lang, masarap na to.
Had boundaries regarding artwork made of her Vtuber model. However, her response to said criticism has really shown her true colors, many people thinking she is a mean girl who is rubbing the lowest moment of someone's life in their face instead of addressing criticism, while doing so very hypocritically, where in past situations she has condemned such behavior and even asked for grace when she found herself
I have a tendency to think about doing that, but I don't do it.
in a low moment as well. All of this stems from this post she made yesterday, talking about how she's extremely uncomfortable with not safe for work art made of her Vtuber model. Now, the hypocrisy people are attempting to point out is the fact that literally the next post is her reposting very suggestive art of her VTuber model, and really she has a history of doing that, but that's a very small portion of this video. What I'm focusing on most is her response to the attempted criticism, where Chibi Reviews, for example, is met with this post from Deme, where she's mocking the fact that his fiance cheated on him while she laughs about the scenario, the lowest moment of that guy's life, which is not just a heinous response and a very shallow one for criticism, but also it brings up her history of dealing with related subjects where she has condemned such behavior and also asked for grace in her own life when she was facing low moments, especially when it comes to her.
Yeah, guys, I mean, I always well, you know, I've always said that I hope that people, even people I don't like, I always hope that they do well, that they, you know, do well in their job, so that they wouldn't, you know, have to steal, have to freaking try to scam people. But then, you know, I always joke about begging for freaking Big Macs. Begging for Big Macs and Whoppers. You know, but it's just to freaking make fun of myself, you know, and to have fun. To have fun so that you guys can laugh along. But, you know, even if it's pretty common, like in real life, I know, even people I know, you know, co-workers, sometimes I would hear my co-workers talking about how they hope that someone will get broke and get fired, you know, they wish that someone will like become a homeless person out in the streets, you know, and how they wish other people would unalive themselves.
Own relationship.
No, I try not to do that. Although one exception is, you know, when I kind of want people to be in a very bad state of their mind mentally. Like I've explained my idea of hell. Yeah. When I want to tell someone to go to hell, I mean, I hope that they get into that really guilty and very desperate, you know, filled with despair, state of mind. So yeah, that's my toxic trait.
For example, when her current boyfriend physically and emotionally abused her and even slashed her with a knife, and she
I'm laughing, but you know, I'm coping by laughing right now.
He has condemned people bringing this up and bringing up her lowest moment in her life, but I guess when it comes to people criticizing her, it's fair game. So let's get into this.
Yep, that sounds like me.
The post itself that started all this, she said, "Hey, just a reminder, I'm extremely uncomfortable with not safe for work art of me," in quotes, "but why did you make your VTuber look like that?" End quote. "Just because I like sexy stuff doesn't mean I want to see full-blown adult content of it." In quotes, it's just a VTuber, end quote. Who do you think of when you see it? So a lot of people are pointing out that she has a history of consistently reposting artwork of her model in very suggestive situations. and they think this line she's trying to draw is a confusing one, or possibly a hypocritical one. This is some of the responses saying, feels uncomfortable, not safe for work art of herself, reposts, not safe for work art. And this is literally the next post she made after claiming she was so uncomfortable with not safe for work art, where this particular article, as you can see...
Oh my god, she's Filipino. Or she's just Pinoy baiting.
The pretty much all of her chest and other parts of her body. It's very suggestive, but of course people are going to debate about whether or not that is full-blown adult content, as she was referring to, and I guess this is the very normal response to people making edits of the previous poster and gunning them down, because apparently trying to have a conversation about this sort of boundary setting is, well, met with violent hostility, but people are pointing out overall that she has a history of posting very suggestive artwork and sharing it, of not just her VTuber model, but also posting herself in similar sorts of ways. And you can see other quotes like this saying, this would hold more water if you weren't consistently retweeting softcore adult content of your model. And really just looking at her model itself, obviously it is quite revealing. It's just a very messy situation. I'm not here harping on this sort of standard she's setting. It's okay to set boundaries, but in this case, it's pretty messy.
Become a Shopee VIP member with your first month free. Get daily free shipping, daily 20% off vouchers, 0% interest with SPay Later every day. Plus, enjoy exclusive perks every Monday. Become a Shopee VIP member today. Shopee!
But where I do feel very compelled to talk about all this is where Chibi Reviews, the YouTuber, would reply, where he would raise the same sort of criticism, saying, the level of virtue signaling has stun-locked me. Look at the repost, referring to the same repost that the other user had shared. And this was her response, not clarifying anything, not combating the point being made here. Instead, taking a shot at his lowest moment, saying, wait, OMG, aren't you the guy whose fiance literally cheated on you and your whole friend group...
Yeah, that's foul, man. That's... First of all, that's foul. I know, that's not really the point, you know.
I did with her. LMFAO.
I mean, if I didn't wanna talk to someone, like, here on my VTuber space, you know, of course, I can't really do that in real life, you know, but here, you know, I will, you know, I will tell you if I don't wanna talk to you. You know, you can tell me if you don't want to talk about something.
So she brings up the fact that this guy got cheated on. Yeah, they're all horrible people. Obviously, the people who did this in the friend group, all that, horrible people. Why is that funny? How is that even a response? It's not even acknowledging the criticism whatsoever. You're just dunking on a guy with his lowest moment and then laughing at it. And...
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can relate to that, you know, when people make fun of me. Well, but, you know, about things that I don't even make fun of in myself. You know, I don't know, man. And is that if I really didn't like a person, it would be if I wanted them to, again, my idea of hell, if I want them to go there. Yeah, I think that's really the exception for me. I do that.
Would you care?
Let me guide you in the act of penance.
Oh, so many.
Never give up, Pilgrim.
What is your instruction?
Some people in real life would just make fun of anything. Even if I wouldn't do the same with them. But whatever. People are, especially if they're old enough, they have half a brain. I'm not talking about being intelligent. I'm talking about knowing what's right and what's wrong. In terms of dealing with people. I myself am pretty avoidant. It's my biggest flaw. But hitting people below the belt, nah. With the exception of, my idea of hell. If I want them to be in a really bad state in their mind, in their emotions, yeah, frick yeah. But I always wish them to do well, financially, physically, so that they wouldn't do evil things. I want them to be healthy, but I want them to burn. Burn in hell. I wish you good health and a long life. To be miserable. Damn, I'm so toxic. Meow, meow, meow. I'm almost exactly like a Nurgle cultist. I want you to live long and suffer. Just kidding. Man, I'm so toxic.
People really did not appreciate this, but for those who don't know, a few months ago, Chibi Reviews shared a personal event in his life where his fiance cheated on him with one of his close friends, and the friend group chose the friend over him, and he almost drank himself to death in response, and it was
Hello, Dark Flame, how are ya?
surely either the lowest or one of the lowest moments of his life, but that's now being rubbed in his face when he dared to criticize someone's post, right? And you can see people saying Western YouTubers try not to be terrible people for 5 seconds challenge, impossible. And it seems to happen over and over again, especially with the popular female indie VTubers where it's like eventually they have this mean girl behavior, and whether or not you want to consider this mean for Deme, I don't really know, but this is a really mask-off moment, right?
Oh, you know what, I've been doing well, and, my application is done. I'm officially inactive status. Status report. You know, I've opened my slots, and students can book me.
When my deeds before Zola offered redemption, but a saint is pardonable.
Students can now book sessions with me. You know,
Your head is a bag of terrorists. Believe me, I know.
The Imperium.
People are looking at this with a lot of disdain. They think this is an incredibly low blow, but it goes way beyond that. She is very hypocritical on all these related subjects, where she has talked about cheating before. In fact, in a recent video from only a few months ago, she was talking about a big cheating scandal in the Japanese streaming scene, and this was her response to people hyping up the guy who was the cheater.
Watch. This is a clip from that stream. Look at...
No! No! All the men cheering for him? No! Are you dead?
all the gifted subs he was getting.
So here, she's very angry about...
You know, I think I've seen her. I've seen her on Facebook. I've seen her on Facebook, but I don't really follow other VTubers. Most of them are just freaking thirst traps. But, you know, they're just like me, complaining about their real life. And I think some of them freaking make things up. And then all they do is just freaking thirst trap. And then when they get called out for it, that kind of drama.
Men hyping up the guy who is cheating and making light of the event or even glorifying it. But that's exactly what she's doing with Chibi reviews. She is elated about this and even laughing about it in her response. So that's a clear level of hypocrisy here. And also people are bringing up that she's always talking about mental health and men's mental health. This person saying, a lot of you say you care about men's mental health and then turn around and do stuff like this. Also, Deme has been a piece of crap for a while. Glad you are all noticing now. And she is the type to make routine posts talking about Happy Men's Day to my fellow men. And that is something I talked about in the month of June. June is Men's Health Month. But she's making posts like this and then attacking men for having something horrible happen to them, weaponizing their lowest moment when they're faced with criticism. They don't have any other way of responding. But it's interesting to see how she responds to the misery of Chibi reviews, for example, but has a very different level of...
Yeah, you know, that's why I'm not... That's why I don't really talk stuff in real life. You know, I wouldn't make fun of, you know, serious things. You know, maybe I like to imitate people, you know, especially when I'm telling what happened. But, you know, some people just really like to do like low blows, freaking below the belt. And you know, that's their... Yeah, I don't wanna think that that's their whole personality. But every time I'm with them, that's all they do. And you know, I don't wanna be like that, so I avoid them. Yeah, freaking. I don't wanna take part in making fun of people for their misfortune. Yeah, freaking. Yeah, I remember a certain person from like 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, who posted about, someone unaliving themselves. But then in real life, she has told me, go kill yourself. Yeah, unalive yourself. And yeah, I know two people like that. Two people who have said that, one told me, hope you die. She was angry, I know another one who was, rambling about how Emma Atienza unalived herself and how rude people are on freaking Twitter. Man, she's rude in real life. And this person is rude in real life. Her default state is like being angry, being moody, telling us how she's gonna kick us, punch us. Man, that's why I don't believe her. All of them are women. so I don't believe them when they freaking ramble about mental health, people unaliving themselves, Yeah, I don't believe them. I freaking I finished BS psychology, but I don't talk about psychology a lot because people bastardize it. Freaking yeah. Freaking got their psychology degree from Facebook University or TikTok. TikTok College of Social Sciences. No. Shit.
Tolerance and empathy and understanding when it comes to her own life and men in her own life, including her current boyfriend, who she made a big series of call-out posts and called him out on stream where she claimed that he was physically and mentally abusing her. And she would make a response when she briefly left him saying, "I'm free," and goes on saying, "After dealing with the things being broken and thrown, screaming in my ear until it rang, having to scream for help till my voice broke because..."
Oh my god, she's from the Philippines. I need a restraining order for this person.
I didn't want my phone taken from me since I took photos of what happened, being pushed, being verbally assaulted, the constant lying, the bruises from being held too hard.
I'm sorry to hear about what happened to her. I hope she gets, if she needs legal help. No shit. But whatever.
Just want to move on. Here's the very ironic part. The last thing I want is for people to constantly remind me of everything. So, in her own situation where she was mistreated, she doesn't want people to constantly remind her of that situation, but she is very, very free to do that to others. Apparently. But of course, it goes even deeper than that. The same situation Deme would expand upon in a Twitch stream where she would say that, well, she was hurt with a knife, saying, we were having an argument that went on for too long and he started getting...
Didn't she make a police report?
his episodes going on, his anger issues, and stuff like that. He grabbed the knife, and I was trying to grab it, and it effing...
There are a lot of high-profile cases and things that happen to freaking micro-celebrities and internet personalities where they freaking pretend to get robbed. They pretended to get robbed or lose something, and then they wouldn't file a police report, and then the public will find out that they're freaking lying, making it up. Oh man.
Slashed my leg, and now there's like a 7-inch scar. And the, I guess now current boyfriend confirmed everything that happened. The verbal and physical attacks. And the only thing he would dispute is that he claimed it wasn't a knife, it was a pair of scissors, but as if that makes a really big difference when you apparently leave a 7-inch wound on someone else. But of course, as you can tell, she would eventually get back with him just months later, saying,
OMG, they're in love.
Nikita, the guy in question, and I, a month after canceling him on Twitter. Well, I wouldn't think allegations are really the same as canceling someone, like they're being mean or something. Like, this was pretty serious stuff. But in the replies, she would say, jokes aside, I still to this day get comments everywhere about going back to your abuser. But honestly, I've never been happier and stable. More stable.
Whatever.
And she would talk about mental health issues and all these things, but she would end it down here by saying, he took care of me in my lowest. It's nice to know people aren't defined by their lowest moments to the people that matter. So again, she's talking about, it's nice to know you're not defined by your lowest moments, but this is how she responds to criticism about arts of a VTuber model, rubbing another person's lowest moment in their face and laughing about it. Very, very hypocritical. But of course, she likes to talk about mental health issues and people not caring about it. She continues on a different post saying, I'm not gonna lie, it's all about mental health, until you actually see someone struggling and suddenly everyone bats an eye. I will never regret getting hurt by trying to save someone from an attempt. If you make fun of it, you're an absolute waste of air. And honestly, you're hurting me more, but I guess that doesn't matter to people. Now keep in mind, a part of Chibi Review's situation was basically drinking himself to death, being very distraught over what happened to him. But of course, that's fair game for her to make.
I thought he was gonna say funny to her.
Fun of, but when she has a similar situation in her life, if you make fun of that or even bring it up, you're an absolute waste.
Yeah, you see, that's one of the. And that's what I was saying earlier. That's why I don't believe some people when they talk about mental health. I know they're for other people. You know, I only stop believing in them. I only stop believing in them when they show it. You know, make fun of someone, you know, tell someone to off themselves, telling people that she wants to freaking punch or kick us. You know, she never sounded like she was kidding. And you know what? Like I mentioned before, I don't care if she was coping, you know. I've done that too before. You know, freaking badmouthed the police. I've badmouthed, you know, certain groups of people. And you know what? I don't expect them to forgive me for any of those. Even if I was coping back then. So, that's why I don't care if people are coping.
And you're just hurting her more. She knows exactly what she's doing. She is basically adding insult to injury by bringing this up and rubbing it
like, oh, you were coping. Keep telling yourself that.
In his face. Now, of course, there's even more hypocrisy. It really never seems to end. She has talked a lot about the Psychono situation, where, in case you're not familiar, a popular streamer was caught being a serial cheater, and the girlfriend actually took him back as a result of all this. But this was her response to the related subject.
Well, holy, what a piece of... The girlfriend is the only person we should feel bad for. I don't know, dude. I feel kind of bad for also the people that he cheated on with, because they're... Just because they're coming out with the fact that they're, you know, I don't know. It's a mess.
Well, what we do know is that she feels empathy for people being cheated on in this situation, but doesn't feel any sort of empathy. In fact, weaponizes it when it happens to someone who dares to criticize her on Twitter.com. And she also has this attitude of throwing a little shade at the fact that the girlfriend took Psychono back, which is, you know, people draw the levels of irony there. But she's talking about the situation, and people were already criticizing back then, well, you should be aware you have personal experience with someone with high XP, because she said that he must have high XP to be able to keep his girlfriend after all of this. And this is yet another post of her situation, basically saying, stop mentioning my situation with my ex. And of course, she would get back with him. So, yeah, she draws this line where you're not allowed to talk about things going on with me.
Oh yeah, I know. You know what, for me. Yeah, you know, for me, I know about alcoholism. You can actually make fun of me. But what I don't like is when people try to force me to go back to drinking, man. That's what I always complain about.
In my relationships,
that's what I always complain about, and then in my mind I start hoping that it also I start hoping that those people will also become alcoholics. and then, get into problems. Man, I'm already cursing. I am doing black magic. I'm doing black magic now. I'm doing voodoo. I'm a voodoo witch doctor.
But she feels very open doing it to others, and that's why you have posts like this from Parrot saying, guy's fiance cheats on him with his...
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, that's one of my toxic traits. Starting to wish, not really wish, but hope. Hope it to happen to them. Like a witch doctor. I'm a witch doctor, man. I gotta practice my yeah, what I wanna do, I wanna do an African accent, Jamaican accent. Yeah, like the witch doctor, do a tattoo. I put bad juju on my enemies. Open my slot.
His friend knows about it and doesn't tell him. Point and laugh at him for it. LMFAO. Your own ex abused you in 2024. Gathering sympathy for your own abuse, but then turning around and making fun of someone else's abuse. You're a hypocrite. And I think that is a very fair set of criticism, given everything we've seen, right? But she would respond to Chibi Reviews, who would say, so you avoid answering why you retweet not safe for work.
Okay, hold on, let me check something. I'm a witch doctor and a child soldier.
Of your avatar despite being upset about it in the post. Then you cheer on him cheating. Interesting. Well, that's the whole thing too, right? Like, she doesn't make it very clear what she even considers not safe for work, because I think a lot of people would consider what she reposts regularly as not safe for work. I mean, it doesn't have to be completely and utterly 100% fully no clothes involved for something to be not safe for work. But then again, that's not really the crux of the criticism here. It has a lot more to do with her response to said criticism. But she replies saying, my bad for not wanting to see my model getting pounded, as if that's anything he said. If people want to keep drawing it, then that's their choice, but I'm just not going to support it. Does it make sense to you now? And she's referring to a reply she would add on to the original thread where she says, I just feel like there's so many other content creators who would love to have artists draw them in that way, and it's a wasted effort towards me. But I'd like to make this clear, I'm completely okay with sexy stuff. She just doesn't like full-blown adult content. But of course, Chibi Reviews would say, so you could have...
I mean, where... No, I don't have a stand with that yet. I don't wanna pretend that I do. Because, I'm gonna be just like them.
Answered first like this, but used personal attacks and cheered cheating. Not a good look. And yeah, I mean, the fact that that's exactly where she went first is a pretty telling thing about the kind of person she is. You can debate about the standards she is expressing and whether or not she's following through on that stuff. But it's another thing to bring up other people's terrible, low moments while always garnering sympathy for your own low moments and condemning people who would ever bring it up. It's incredibly hypocritical, okay? But the artist who made some of the related stuff that was being reposted would make their own statement where they basically say they didn't know about the standard and they're removing the stuff and they worked it out in private and they're going to keep making these things if they feel like it.
Yeah, I'm seeing reports that Oliver Tree has passed away. Oh, man. Helicopter crash, oh man. Rest in peace.
But of course, they ended by saying seeing my name on effing Chibi reviews was the final straw. So I guess they didn't really care until they saw someone they don't like talk about it. It just kind of shows the motivation of people like this involved here. But this entire situation is an absolute mess. And, you know, she went after someone and what happened to them and their former relationship and basically opened herself up to a world of criticism way beyond anything to do with arts and what she's reposting, but instead her own standards that she has created for herself and for others that she's not following through the second someone gets under her skin with criticism of one of her posts. But anyways, definitely would want to hear what you guys have to say about this, a very messy situation, so please leave your comments down below. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, consider giving the video a like, consider subscribing and turning on notifications for daily uploads, as well as multiple streams here live on YouTube every week. But overall, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
Damn, thank you so much for showing me the twister fries. Now I want some.
One of the most enigmatic enemies in Darktide is the Demon Host. Is this just one Demon Host we keep encountering over and over, or have many of them been created by whomever their master is? Why are they all just sitting there? Also, I thought that Demon Hosts probably would have been tougher than this too. If you've been introduced to 40k through Darktide, or just have never heard much about
you know, I read a lot of novels by Dan Abnett. So, you know, it's pretty grim dark.
Hosts before, you may not know the dark, sinister ritual necessary to create these bound entities of the warp, or what their presence implies. Today I'll tell you all about how demon hosts are made, who typically is responsible for creating them, and also why Darktide's demon hosts have everything to do with what Rodin's body is being used for at the end of the Dark Communion mission. Obey my cat! Hit the subscribe button. There's a lot of different types of demons in 40k. Lesser demons, greater demons, demon princes, cases of demonic possession, and then of course you have your demon host. So what is a demon host?
Hi, welcome to Chili's.
No, not like that. A demon host may seem a lot like just a simple case of demonic possession at face value, but the truth is a lot worse and far more fucked up. Demon hosts are in a sense a demon of the warp given physical form in the real world by ritualistically tormenting and sacrificing a living person to act as a vessel for the evil spirit. In Warhammer 40k, there's two separate dimensions of reality: the physical real world our characters exist in, and the warp. The warp is a completely non-physical plane of existence where only psychic energy exists, so the chaos gods and demons, by virtue of being born from and living in the warp, actually have no physical form. I know that probably sounds bonkers yonkers if you're new to 40k, because it sure as shit seems pretty real when a beast of Nurgle shoves you down its gullet, but it technically is just really powerful psychic energy. That's why it fades from existence after you kill it. It's a demon and it's being expelled from the physical plane.
It's being banished. That's the term in Total War, banished.
And banished back to the Shadow Realm.
Yes,
if you're new to Warhammer, this might also be a good time to mention that 40k doesn't make the most sense, but don't think about it too hard because it's really cool and that's what matters. Okay, so back to the demon hosts. Since demons don't truly have a physical form, they can't just suddenly show up for no reason or hang out indefinitely in the real world. Most of the time when demons do drop in on real space, it's because there's something like a warp rift present radiating psychic energy out from it, or incredibly powerful psychers opening portals and pulling them in, but that's not how demon hosts are created. The Inquisition requires me to inform you that this section is for educational and demonstrative purposes only. Do not attempt to create your own demon host. Anyway, here's what you would need if you were going to create a demon host. A pen. Or scalpel, whichever you prefer. The full and complete name of a demon. An unholy tome so befouled with forbidden knowledge you feel the unclosing eyes of both Chaos and the Emperor upon you when you hold it. Some salt. Blood that no one will ask where you got it from. A hyperfixation topic that you are insufferably pedantic about and can talk about forever. A good friend. Or someone you don't actually like and you've made them think that you're their friend. Or someone you kidnapped and they didn't agree to this at all. That last one is actually the best. Purity seals, chains, or at the very least some duct tape. And of course, most importantly, a complete disregard for morals, ethics, and human life. Alright, so the first thing you're gonna want to do is take your friend, acquaintance friend, open your scary ass book to the page that covers words of binding, and then start writing those on this person. If you chose the pen instead of a scalpel from the materials list, make sure you don't smudge the ink at all, because that will become a problem when you get to the actual summoning. Choosing the scalpel is the pro move here because you don't have to worry about making sure your ink stays pristine. Also, carving the words into the flesh of your acquaintance friend is painful for them and their suffering feeds the dark gods. So now just make sure you're getting those grotesque scripts exactly as they appear on the page and you'll be good to go. Once you finish that step, now you'll want to apply purity seals to your victim volunteer and also bind them with some heavy chains. If you weren't able to sanctify your own chains made from the purest of steel at home, that's okay, duct tape is probably fine. Now expect these steps to take at minimum an entire day to finish. Don't rush it. Making a single mistake will likely result in the summoned demon breaking your hold over it, then turning your skin inside out and handing your own intestines to you. Confidence is key, and you'll need that confidence because now it's time to summon the demon from the realms of hell. The actual ritual itself and the incantations you'll need to use will differ depending on the demon you seek to manifest, so make sure to follow the instructions outlined in your dark book to the letter. You may feel your eyes start to boil when gazing too long upon its fetid pages. That's part of how you'll know it's working. If you've done the ritual and incantation correctly, you'll start to feel the oppressing presence of the demon itself split into your mind, and you'll have to defeat it in a psychic battle of wills to assert your metaphysical dominance over it. This is where your hyperfixation comes in. Exhaust the demon by mentally ranting about your specific weird passion. There are a few mainstays that almost always work here, like explaining the plot of your favorite anime or trying to get the demon to play a game of Settlers of Catan with you. When the demon gets desperate enough, it will try to get away from you by seeking refuge inside of the person you've prepared to host it. You'll see a blinding flash of light, hear a deafening crack, and there'll be a lingering scent somewhat similar to bleach. Congratulations! You have successfully summoned a demon of the warp and bound it into a human body, making yourself its master and allowing it to remain indefinitely in the physical world against its will. Being completely glib aside, those are more or less the steps one has to take when it comes to summoning and creating a demon host. One of the most important elements of the summoning is the actual human the demon will be bound inside of. Most humans in the 40k universe have psychic energy inside of them because of their soul. Souls are actually pieces of warp energy contained inside the physical body, so those shards of the warp can exist in real space as long as the person is alive. It's their souls that allow demons to even be able to perceive humans at all, and it's necessary that a human that will be used to host a demon have one, because the demon needs it to like snack on or whatever while it's bound inside of the mortal body. So no blanks, which are humans that don't have souls. Depending on the situation, the human host can be a willing participant, like a member of a powerful chaos cult who's willing to sacrifice themselves to further their goals. But a lot of demon hosts are made from people who are unwilling victims. This person, willing or unwilling, undergoes a preparation to become a vessel for a demon to be summoned into. Most of this preparation is inscribing the ritual words of binding onto the person so that the demon stays locked in if it's successfully bound into them. This can be done with simple ink on skin, but I wasn't making a joke before when I said if you smudge it, the consequences will be dire. Making any small mistake means that the strength of binding keeping the demon at bay will be weaker, meaning the demon is at greater risk of breaking out of its bindings and killing anyone in its path. So it's much safer to spend more time tattooing or even carving the words and sigils into the victim's skin. Because this is such an intricate and important part of the process, it's very time intensive, usually taking at minimum a full day. When it comes time to perform the actual summoning, the summoner must encircle the host human with salt, blood, your usual ritualistic materials for sanctified circles of protection. The summoner will then begin their ritual chants, invoking the name of the targeted demon to bring it into real space. When the demon arrives, the summoner must impose their will on the demon to overpower it and command it into the victim's body. If they succeed, the demon goes into the body of the victim host, and their physical form often twists and mutates to express the qualities of the demon that is now inside of them. Once bound, the demon can remain in real space indefinitely because it is contained inside a human body and it consumes the soul of the victim, instead of a simple possession where the demon is temporarily inside of the person's body along with their soul and they cohabitate. When a human becomes a vessel for a demon host, that person effectively dies and their soul is lost. The demon host is now compelled to follow the orders of its master, with varying degrees of success depending on how strong the demon is, how precise the summoner was with performing the ritual correctly, and also how specific the summoner is with their instructions to the demon when they give it orders. There's typically two different main camps someone who tries to summon a demon host falls into: a powerful chaos cult like Admonition, and radical inquisitors. Inquisitors that participate in this dire ritual are often from the Ordo Malleus, and one of the main motivators for an inquisitor to summon a demon host is to gain knowledge. Because demons are literal beings of the warp and an actual manifestation of part of their chaos god, they have a wealth of knowledge about chaos and secrets otherwise nearly impossible to learn by any mortal. That being said, the way that demon hosts are presented to us in Darktide makes it clear that these have been created by the Cult of Admonition. The grimoires found across the maps may actually be the dark tomes where the cult has gained their knowledge of how to perform the ritual to summon specific demons of Nurgle. There's a lot going on with the demon hosts that demonstrate Admonition was their creators, but if you're not paying close attention, it's actually all pretty easy to miss and just lump it in as generic enemy stuff. The demon hosts we encounter in Darktide have been created with an unwilling human victim in the ritual. They weren't part of Admonition or seeking to further their goals. Before awakening, demon hosts can be heard pleading to themselves that what has happened can't be real, they can't have been twisted into this horrifying creature, and are begging the Emperor for protection.
You're not real. You're not real. You're not real. Why have you forsaken me?
Given that we know now the consumption or otherwise expelling of the original human soul from the body happens when the demon is bound in,
I wanna hear the pleads again.
or otherwise expelling of the original human soul from the body.
You're not real. You're not real. You're not real. Why have you forsaken me?
Given that we know now the consumption or otherwise expelling of the original human soul from the body happens when the demon is bound into the victim, these are probably the echoes of the last words of the person whose body was used before the ritual was complete. Another big clue that it was admonition behind the summoning of the demon hosts is the fact that they're being used as weapons. When bound, the summoner becomes the demon's master and it will follow their directions. It seems pretty unlikely that Grendel would create a demon host and direct its purpose to be to attack members of his own warband, while simultaneously directing the demon to leave Scab, Moby, and 6 enemies and drag cultist members alone. But this does bring up the fair question of why exactly was the demon host summoned, and how many are there? Fat Shark actually just answered one of these questions recently through a new change to Havoc. If you weren't sure that there was more than one demon host and it just is the same one that keeps coming back over and over, we can now rest assured it's intended that there are many of them, because Fat Shark just announced the Heinous Rituals mutator for Havoc mode. In Havoc levels affected by this mutator, you will find Admonition Psychers in the process of creating more demon hosts, and will need to stop them before they finish the ritual. This also kind of makes my thesis on the purpose of demon hosts in Darktide a little sticky, but I'd finished writing this before they announced the Havoc update, so fuck it. We ball. The question of why Admonition is creating demon hosts is a very interesting one. Heretical cults will summon demon hosts to do any number of things, and certainly among those is to rip apart the enemies of the cult and do their dirty work for them. However, the actual demon itself that is summoned and used for creating a demon host is usually one of considerable power. Think along the lines of a herald, a demon prince, or even a greater demon. Cults generally summon a demon host as a form of worship for their chaos god, or to open a door and allow a powerful demon they formed an alliance with to walk in the mortal plane.
I mean, there are beasts of Nurgle there.
This seems pretty unlikely to be the express reason why the demon hosts we see in Darktide were created. They kind of just curl up in the fetal position and pretend to be pathetic lost souls until you get close enough and it springs its trap on your strike team. That would be a considerable waste of a greater demon, and there's no way that we're slapping around a demon prince or even a herald on the regular. These demon hosts, these ones that we fight in Darktide, these ones were the practice demons. You didn't think you were getting out of this video without a classic Joe theory, did you? Remember how Admonition had rodents strung up on the symbol of Chaos Undivided, also called the Octad, in the Dark Communion mission? The ritual chant in that mission ends with what is pretty clearly a command to manifest a demon.
Kill that carpet out! Scab, shot
A greater demon of Nurgle. A great unclean one.
4 very large vats of the Admonition Green Goo TM that we've seen used to corrupt and mutate other victims of their plots are also presumably being fed into Rodin's body, somehow. Now, there's only one kind of great one where Nurgle is concerned.
Great unclean one.
And that's Nurgle's greater demon called a Great Unclean One. Ever since the Dark Communion came out, I've gone back and forth on exactly what I think is happening here to summon a Great Unclean One itself, whether it's a demon host or if Admonition is doing some other kind of ritual. At first, I didn't think we were hearing a demon host summoning ritual for 2 very specific reasons. First, we never hear the actual name of a specific demon get invoked. I wouldn't expect it to be one of the big Nurgle brand names like Hugath, but presumably if this was the ritual for summoning a Great Unclean One into Rodin's body as a demon host, we should hear some kind of proper name. But we also can't be sure what rites and rituals happened in Messalina Vengeance before our strike team arrives, so maybe that had already been done. The other reason I didn't like the demon host ritual angle is that, as we learned earlier, the mortal body host has to be a living person for a demon to be bound found inside it because the demon requires a mortal soul to consume. Rodin is definitely dead. He did not receive the same life-saving or resurrecting surgery that Rinda was treated to, and Rinda's personal journal entry confirms that Rodin is dead and she wants to avenge his death. So his soul is gonzo. Back to the warp with thee. Bye, Felicia. They can't be using Rodin's body to make a demon host out of him because that vital component is missing.
Burned.
But here's where things get interesting. In the cinematic after you beat the mission, Rodin has a green substance shoot out of his body and fly out of the church window. I always interpreted this as the soul or entity of whatever the mysterious voice was trying to summon leaving his body and returning to the warp because the ritual is interrupted. But Fat Shark says differently. Fat Shark VFX artist Felicia says that it's actually Rodin's soul that we see leaving his body. But he's been dead for long enough that I'd expect his soul would have already returned to the warp. What up with that? There's a couple of possibilities. The first is that Rodin and Rinda have both been infected with Nurgle's diseases, we know that much, and the main disease that we see throughout Darktide is the walking pox. The walking pox specifically kills its mortal victims, but because it's a heinous disease of the chaos god of pestilence, this particular disease traps the mortal soul inside of their body. When their dead body reanimates as a zombie-like creature, the mortal soul inside is still aware of everything their shambling corpse is doing, but can't affect it at all. All they can do is observe in horror and despair. If Rodin was infected with the walking pox, it could be possible that his soul was still trapped inside of his body after death, but he also never reanimates as far as we're aware, so maybe not. However, don't forget that the Admonition Green Goo TM is involved in this ritual for some reason, and that's an interesting detail. Since the color of the soul we see fly out of Rodin's body is also the same bright green color as the goo, it could be possible that it's been used on his dead body to perhaps keep him from reanimating but also not have his soul leave his body, or some kind of spiritual conductor or lubricant to help slide a demon in there. Enjoy that visual. Going back to earlier in the video, we learned that the ritual for creating a demon host is very finicky. You have to be precise, and the more powerful the demon is that you're trying to summon, the more careful to not make a single mistake you have to be. Since a Great Unclean One is as powerful as you can get when it comes to Nurgle demons, and summoning this demon is probably more in line with being a form of worship or fulfilling Admonition's ultimate goals, the person performing the ritual in the cult would want to be very confident that they're going to get this right. And the mysterious voice says several times throughout the Dark Communion that this ritual is of the utmost importance.
They must not imperil the right. 'Tis prophecy. 'Tis foretold.
And if the stakes are that high, it makes perfect sense that Admonition would want to do some practice runs to make sure that they have the ritual exactly perfectly right, with some form of lower level or lesser demons that won't cause a catastrophe if it were to fail, especially if an experimental element that only they understand, like the green goo, is required somewhere in the mix. So yeah, that's why the demon host exists, and why we're able to put them down with relative ease. They're the results of the practice runs that Admonition did to prepare for their main event. These demon hosts most likely specifically have the souls of plague bearers inside of them, because while they're still formidable, even a single member of our strike team can be capable of taking one down, and that's just not on the level with something you'd expect from a more favored demon of Nurgle like a Herald. If these demon hosts were part of the practice batches that were pretty much disposable, the summoner within Admonition probably just shrugged and decided to not waste a perfectly good demon host and set them loose within Tertium to spread further disease, chaos, and confusion, leaving them to wander the Hive City and wait until—
You know, all of this demon lore makes me wanna play Total War Warhammer right now. Like us freaking Chaos Undivided or Nurgle.
till any—
And you know, I think when you get the Herald of Nurgle to like level 20 or level 30, you can summon a greater demon of Nurgle, you know, a great unclean one.
anyone foolish enough to disturb their peace stumbles upon them. Want to come poke a demon host with me? Drop by a stream and play a mission with me, or join the Patreon, YouTube channel members, or subscribe to me on Twitch and be in the loop on when I'll be playing Darktide to capture footage for these videos. You might even see your character in a future one. Thanks for watching, and until next time, just hold on for March 25th when the Nightmares and Visions update comes. I'll see you out there against the Darktide. A huge thank you to these amazing people for helping support my channel and keeping me going. Leah S., Andrew Brown, Cameron, Ben, the Thunder Guardian, Nicholas Velardes.
Wow. Oh wow. Are those mice?
John Brash, the Communist Crusader, Macro, Big Guy, Daniel Gerber, and Nurgle Luxes. Thank you so much to all my supporters. Welcome to another installment of... No, seriously, what the f*** is happening in Darktide? Today, we're going to examine the other side of the unholy union that's sieging Tertium, the Cult of Admonition. We'll look at what Admonition and Chaos cults are, what they have been doing in their siege of Tertium, and who the major characters are behind the cult. Obey my cat! Hit the subscribe button. The tale of Admonition hasn't been given to us in as much concrete detail as the Mobian Six, but there's arguably a lot more parts and pieces surrounding this faction for us to try and put together. We'll start with the most core concept: what is Admonition and how did they form? Admonition is a chaos cult that specifically worships Nurgle, the chaos god of disease and decay. In 40k lore, Nurgle is also often called the Grandfather. Chaos cults themselves can range in the type of activities they typically participate in, from groups like sacrificial fight clubs to more politically focused groups to your standard grounded religious cults and everything in between. Admonition seems to be more of a religious-based movement, and they also seem to be one of the types of cults that was a little more open about their recruitment before the uprising. Now, if you're wondering why on earth anyone would join up with a cult that will eventually turn you into this, the answer is a lot more straightforward than you might think. Your general citizen of Tertium is one person in a hive city of over 9 billion people. The vast majority of those citizens live in conditions that's either living literally in sewage or crammed in a tiny box with 6+ other people just above the sewage. They work excruciatingly long hours, often performing physical labor under oppressive conditions, and have nothing to show for it other than being told that they're doing their duty for the God Emperor. So when you have that perspective, it makes this recruitment scenario feel a lot more reasonable. Okay, so I sign up for the cult and I get a brand new family and a god that actually loves me and notices me. Great, perfect, I love all that. But I have to ask, and I'm really sorry if this is offensive, am I gonna end up looking like you?
I'm gonna be honest with you, mate. You probably end up looking worse.
Okay, you know what? It's not a deal breaker. I just wanted to ask to know what I was getting into. Heretics may be vile, disgusting little pus sacks, but they sure aren't lazy. Admonition's activities and corruption spread from the cistern quite possibly all the way to the tops of Tertium spires, and it can't be said that they lack ambition. With the support of not only the traitorous Mobian Sixth, but other factions as well, they quickly put a stranglehold on the hive city of Tertium. Transportation, vital infrastructure, commerce, you name it, Admonition has been there in Tertium using every available resource to shove some kind of disease into the population. Trains have been a focal point of the original infection since one was hijacked and used to spew toxic gas through populated stations as seen in the trailers and first cutscenes of Darktide. Fun fact, you can actually see that same train used in the attack in Chasm Terminus during the assassination mission toward the end of the level, right here. And of course, the cultists have decided to not let a classic go to waste, which is what gave us the Rolling Steel mission, where Admonition uses another train to stage an attack on the newly arrived Mobian 53rd. Based on the contents we see on the train and that there's a bomb on board, we can pretty safely assume this was meant to be a dirty bomb used in a terrorist-style attack. Other points of infection and corruption have been tainting Tertium's water supply.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole!
By shoving a goddamn demon into the pipes. But this isn't just any standard demon, this is a mechanical demon, and mechanical demons are relatively uncommon and would necessitate someone with the know-how on how to construct them. The options on
Dark Mechanicum.
the table to consider if you're looking at what's grounded and established in 40k lore are maybe a cogitator or something similar became demonically possessed and grew out of control over a long amount of time, or it was intentionally constructed either by a warpsmith or a member of the Dark Mechanicum. I've
Hell yeah, brother.
the Dark Mechanicum and a lot of the reasons why they're likely to be involved somewhere in the happenings of Darktide, and a link to that video can be found in the description. Interestingly, Admonition also cooperated with the Water Cartel to some degree, as evidenced by in-game quotes in certain missions throughout the Torrent and Vigil stations.
Yes, they often mention the Water Cartel. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking they're actually dealing, water. Drinking water. Because that's how bad living conditions are. I'm thinking water is as hard to go by. That they need an organization to freaking, I don't know, smuggle it.
And once Admonition had access to what they needed, tainting the water supply, they turned on the Water Cartel. This goes a long way to explain the piles of dead Water Cartel members we see in the Torrent. Other infrastructure the heretics have hit are production facilities vital to Loyalist war efforts, such as Metal Fab 36, the Smeltery. Lehman Rust tanks can't flatten the heretics if there aren't any Lehman Rust tanks left and the Imperium can't build new ones. And of course, Admonition got their hands into local commerce by way of the drug trade in the Carnival District. We finally got 100% confirmation the Blight was transmitted through tainted stims during the Unrelenting Hordes event, where members of the Loyalist Mobian 21st Regiment had succumbed to infection. Soldiers turned groaners could clearly be heard muttering,
"Stims, make me strong."
The mystery around the stims and Admonition's involvement with them goes a little deeper than just selling drugs to make money to fund their effort and infect more people with Nurgle's diseases. Rannick and Morrow note that the facility used to create the drugs predates the invasion.
I reckon this place has been running since before the invasion. It would seem that there is more rotten in Tertium than was immediately apparent.
And this is apparently important enough to warrant informing Grendel directly.
Conspiracy and heresy go hand in hand. Grendel will not be happy. But nor
When you're talking about the main disease that's sweeping through Tertium, the walking pox, physical infection vectors are only half of the problem. The walking pox is a warp-based disease, meaning it's essentially supernatural in nature.
I fear, therefore, the malady may have some component of the warp.
This means that people whose faith in the Emperor isn't strong enough can actually run the risk of being infected through sound and heretic propaganda by corrupting the victim's souls, which is something Admonition actually does. We hear it interrupt the original Wormwood Voxes.
Praise the darkness and the notch, a new beginning born of old fears.
And one mission in the Hourglass actually exists specifically to turn off this same heretical transmission. Spreading corruption to infect as many citizens as possible from mass numbers of groaners and poxwalkers isn't all Admonition has been up to. It would seem someone within the cult has been performing almost medical experiments, specifically in trying to force mutations in some of Admonition's soldiers. If you've never noticed, the Dreg Ragers, Mutants, and Chaos Spawns all have these containers of the classic Admonition green liquid somewhere on their persons. In each phase of growth, they change a bit in the quantity and location, but they're always present, and these are the only enemies like this. There's a pretty clear line from Rager to Chaos Spawn that follows from phase to phase in how dramatically mutated they are. There's also, of course, the obvious manifestations of two different demons, the Beast of Nurgle and the Demon Host, that would need to be physically pulled from the warp into real space somehow. Enemies with forced mutations and actual demons are something we don't see on the Mobian side of the war at all. It's exclusive to Admonition. And that's where it becomes vital for us to take a look at the who's who behind this powerful Nurgle cult. I'm going to start with a character we actually haven't gotten a name for yet, and this one's probably going to feel like a curveball, but the Vox 12 entity that killed the original Wormwood is almost certainly involved with Admonition.
The soul is mine now, and yours, Inquisitor Grendel, is next.
Whether this is a powerful sorcerer or perhaps even some kind of demon itself, it was acting as an agent of the cult hunting down Wormwood to put an end to her investigation, and is presumably still out there, somewhere.
Fox scatter is increasingly severe. I cannot confirm if my transmissions are getting through.
On the more mortal side, the head honcho of at least the religious portion of Admonition, if not the entire cult itself, seems to be a character that's been introduced as the mysterious cultist. It's tricky to talk about him and establish his place of authority within the cult because Vox Intercept 6 that really introduces him has been taken down by Fatshark. I don't want to repost the video myself because apparently it was removed due to some kind of dispute, but what you need to know from the Lost Vox is that this mysterious cultist was present at Rinda Karnak's side after the Orthus offensive. He tells Rinda that his followers found her dead, or close to dead, after the rejects leave and brought her to him. It is he who also names Rinda the Herald of Admonition, so he must be in a position of authority over at the very least the religious aspects of the cult to be able to put the will of Nurgle into word and action by letting Rinda know her destined role within the cult. Now, the person who actually pulled Rinda back from the arms of death is a character we've heard mentioned a few times in Darktide by the name of Ermal. Ermal is the woman who performed the surgery that saved Rinda, either saving her from the brink of death or reviving her from death. I'm honestly a little unclear on exactly which. Regardless, we know Ermal is important within Admonition because in the Hab Draco mission, Wolfer says,
Parallax is sacred ground to Ermal's followers. I want it protected.
She has some amount of followers under her, and we also know that at least part of her role in the cult is medical and experimentation based. She is almost certainly the woman behind their roided out ragers that eventually grow out of control from mutants into full-blown chaos spawns. You've probably noticed that two of the three characters I've already listed here, the mysterious cultist and Ermal, are related to, or they themselves focus on Rinda Karnak, and that's probably not by accident. Rinda has become something of a linchpin in Darktide's story, pushing the narrative to shift focus as her role in the story evolves. Like I said at the start of the video, Admonition is more difficult to talk about in terms terms of concrete facts and a linear story. So far in Dark Tide, most of the focus for our antagonists and background information has been squarely on Wolfer and the Mobian Six. The dregs and admonition have definitely been present, we just went over all the ways they're wreaking havoc across Tertium, but they've mostly been players in the shadows as far as what we as an audience have been getting informed about. But now we're starting to see that focus shift, and this transition actually has everything to do with Rinda Karnak's character arc and her coming into her role as the Herald of Admonition. Let's rewind a little bit to the Traitor Curse, which is where we were first introduced to the Karnak twins. The twins are established to be part of Wolfer's regiment in the Mobian Six, and they're incredibly tough and ruthless warriors.
Two of Wolfer's lieutenants, the Karnak twins, are leading operations in Abzone HL 7004.
Weaklings! You wouldn't last a day!
But Roden and Rinda, especially Rinda, are a bit different from Wolfer when it comes to how they present themselves as followers of Nurgle. Even though Wolfer has apparently pledged himself to Nurgle's service and supporting the Cult of Admonition, his character is still very much a military man.
Hello, thanks for dropping by.
We never really hear voice.
My application and training are over, so I've actually opened some slots and I can start teaching.
Voice lines from him about his beliefs or the more religious side of his heretical choices. The closest we ever get is him referencing his new truth that he's bringing to the people of Tertium to set them free.
It is our solemn pledge to bring about a new and glorious age of freedom and prosperity.
Rinda is different. She and Roden consistently reference feeding rejects to the cauldron.
Run out to convicts to send to their death. There's still room in the cauldron if you're feeling lonely.
And this is referencing the Great Cauldron of Nurgle. The cauldron is the vessel in which Nurgle creates all of his horrible diseases, and was used during the Plague Wars to spread disease and devastate planets across Ultramar. To keep the potent diseases flowing, the cauldron must consistently be filled with a large amount of rotting materials, which is why enemies of the Grandfather are fed to the cauldron. The Karnak twins seem to take more interest in the role of serving Nurgle directly, rather than just participating in military engagements, and in turn Nurgle has seen their efforts and taken a particular interest in Rinda. After we fight the twins in the Orthus offensive, Rinda is saved from death and wakes up in the care of the head of the Cult of Admonition. I'm going to read some of the most important lines from the transcript of that removed Vox Intercept 6. Ermal says that she's never seen a physiology quite like yours. A biological aberration, that's what she calls you. But we both know the truth, don't we? The Grandfather has chosen you. You are to become something remarkable. Of course, Ermal insisted on adding a little something of her own to the mix. That woman does love to tinker. I'm told it will be some time before her little gifts ripen within you. But the Grandfather rewards patience. You are one of us now. We will love you like a sister, and you will be the Herald of Admonition. All that you desire will be yours for the taking.
The Herald. Do they mean the Herald, the demon? The one that comes before the Great Unclean One?
Alright, so there's a bit to unpack here. Upon examining Rinda for her surgery, Ermal calls her a biological aberration, but the mysterious cultist says, we both know the truth about that. What the hell does that mean? While again, we can't be 100% certain because it isn't just spelled out for us, this really seems to imply that Rinda has probably been slowly mutating for a while. I would guess probably since Nox Alpha, when she began to seem extra resistant to the diseases all the other soldiers were dying from.
Where's the justice? Hundreds dead to Knoxville, and Rinda Karnak still staking. Blessed throne.
The process of physical mutation has probably been accelerated due to Ermal's surgical intervention, and also whatever custom work Ermal decided to add along with saving Rinda's life. So what does this amount to? What is the Herald of Admonition? There is something that already exists in 40k lore called the Herald of Nurgle. This is
Yep, that's what I was talking about. Hello, guidance.
an empowered plague bearer known as a poxbringer, and most often the Herald of Nurgle was a mortal whose resistance to the Grandfather's diseases and their deeds in service of chaotic will have pleased Nurgle so much that he blesses that individual mortal and elevates them to demonhood. This matches with what we hear the mysterious cultist tell Rinda about her coming transition into the Herald of Admonition perfectly. They both know the truth about her biological aberration. The Grandfather has chosen her. If you played the Terror in the Dark event Fat Shark ran for Darktide back in August of 2024, you'll know that it was revealed to us in-game that Rinda isn't actually dead. She appeared once.
I'm doing fine, thanks for asking. You know, I'm pushing through with my tutor job, but I think I really need a day job. Freaking hell. I really think I need a day job. I can't live on tutoring alone.
Once again to fight our rejects as a test of strength for herself to see if she's ready. It was a big disappointment across the community, myself included, that Rinda appeared as her exact same model with her exact same weaponry and attack kit. But it is worth noting a couple things. The first is that a Herald of Nurgle frequently uses a weapon called a Bale Sword, making Rinda's sword an already appropriate weapon for the future of what she may become. Rinda is also covered literally head to toe in robes, chainmail, gloves, and a helmet. We see exactly 0 of her features. This very well may be by design on her part to help hide the physical mutations she started experiencing, especially since we know in the past other members of the Mobian Six were likely able to see her face.
I don't like the way Rinda Karnak looks at me. Not one bit.
So even though she may have looked like her basic self during the Terror in the Dark, a demonic version of Rinda is not off the table. In fact, that Lost Vox Intercept 6 more or less confirms that she is changing. And as Rinda physically transforms into a new horror that will terrorize the warband, she transitions from a simple soldier of the Mobian Six to almost a sort of religious figurehead. Her character has been strongly present during the fall of the Mobian Six on Nox Alpha and continuing into the events of Darktide, giving us a touchstone and insight into that traitor company. Now Rinda acts as a bridge to cover the gap that has existed for us as an audience, bringing us into the inner workings of Admonition, introducing us to the mysterious cultist, bringing us a step closer to knowing who or what Ermal is, and demonstrating the strength of Admonition's faith in Nurgle. Hopefully Fat Shark will continue to expand Darktide's story in this direction, and sooner rather than later we'll come to discover the ultimate goals of what this powerful chaos cult hopes to achieve, helping clear up the question of, no, seriously, what the fuck is happening in Darktide? Thanks so much for watching, and thank you to Nightfall for telling me where to find the transcript for Vox Intercept 6 on the wiki. Also a huge thank you to Leah S. over on Patreon, and Rue on Top and Comadre for being YouTube channel members, helping make this video possible.
Hepsi bot mu amına?
Meow meow.
Bizde cheater de var.
Kız ya.
Meow meow.
Meow meow cheater de var.
A cheater.
Cheater.
Cheater. Meow meow meow.
Rüyalarda gireceğim.
Ne veriyor ya?
Meow meow meow.
Meow meow meow. What? Are you guys teammates? All 4 of you?
Nikita, как дела?
GG.
А? Мяу-мяу.
Meow meow.
Meow meow meow.
Are you all guys teammates? Meow meow meow.
Meow meow meow.
Pika pika.
Meow meow meow.
Pikachu. Oh, sorry. Pika motherfucker. Oh wow, they're AFK talaga.
Bunlar bot ama.
What the fuck?
Oynamıyorlar.
They're AFK.
Meow meow meow. This is your real voice?
No.
Where are you from, bro?
Philippines.
Philippines.
I'm a grown man with a voice changer.
How old are you?
Probably old enough to be your uncle. No, not really. Oh, I think they're all. Are those your bots? You cheating the rank? Bro, I think these guys are cheaters. Cheating the rank.
Meow meow. Meow meow. Meow meow. Meow meow meow.
Tomato meow meow.
Throwing flashbang. Throwing smoke.
Bro. You know, later I'm gonna keep on reviewing, you know, how the process is, so that I will always be ready. Now, after this match, I'm gonna end the stream. Easy drop.
Bu da bot amına. Cheater.
Move it. Deploying decoy.
What's your name?
Incendiary. Fire in the hole.
Nik Vtuber. What's your name?
What? My name's Nik. Nico, Nico,
What's your name? What's your name?
Name's Nik Vtuber. Just kidding.
You know, how old are you?
I'm a grown man, bro.
Never mind. Ne yapıyor ya? Ne bakayım. Cheater. Cheater'ın yemez kursağında. Kursağında kaldı. Cheater'lık yemez. Ama para çalışıyor. Böyle ağzına aldığını düşünsene. Hey cheater.
I wonder who that is, Wolfer.
Welcome to part 1 of an ongoing series I'm calling... No, seriously, what the fuck is happening in Darktide? Today we're going to start with what really sets the stage for the entirety of Darktide to take place. The Mobian 6 and their fall to chaos, which we learn a lot about through the Martyr Skulls and their memory echoes. Obey my cat! Hit the subscribe button.
Meow meow.
The Mobian 6 is a regiment within the Astra Militarum, aka the Imperial Guard, of the Mobian Domain. Since a sector of space the Mobian Domain is likely in butts up against a void so far uncharted by the Imperium, a strong military presence is needed on the front of what's called the Fringe War to hold back the conglomeration of enemies of mankind in the Mobian Domain, collectively called the Dark Tide. Of all the regiments of the Mobian military, the 6th is considered one of the most fearsome and highly praised.
I still remember the parade they threw us. Heroes, one and all, bringing light to the darkness of the Fringe.
Which honestly makes me a little concerned about the quality of the other Mobian regiments because, I don't know man, who do you think should win? An entire battalion of highly trained deadly soldiers or 4 crackheads with a rock? Although to be fair, it is a pretty big rock. Many soldiers of the 6th, as well as any regiment in the Imperial Guard, volunteered or were conscripted for service at a relatively young age, and conscripting can happen in a variety of ways. Criminals will sometimes be given the choice between prison/execution or military service.
Enforcers caught me cracking a hat, didn't they? So it was join up or end up on the rad shift in the mines.
This is a concept with which we're all familiar because dying in service of defending Tertium instead of going straight to the executioner's block is exactly how our characters came to be involved with the events of Darktide. As a planet that's part of the Imperium of Man, Atoma Prime would have minimums to meet with the amount of soldiers they have to provide to the Astra Militarum, and sometimes when volunteers fall short of those quotas...
I shouldn't even be here. Time fell short of recruits, so they dragged Throneside to make up the numbers. I got caught in the net.
People are more or less kidnapped and forced into service. While the bulk of the Mobian 6 may be your typical citizen who's down on their luck and in over their heads, the leadership and higher ranks within the regiment don't all necessarily fit that mold. People generally...
Oh, I'm listening to something.
Big dick. Do you want a dick?
No.
Respect good leaders, those who go out of their way to both lead by example and action, as well as go above and beyond for the people under their oversight. It builds strong bonds in teams and instills loyalty to their shared cause. The Mobian 6 is no exception, and they have 2 very strong leaders who they have the utmost respect and adoration for in Colonel Gorton and Captain Wolfer. Wolfer is the leader of the Mobian 6 we are most familiar with, being that he's one of the main antagonists of Darktide. What we see and hear of him in Darktide ourselves seems to be standard behavior for him. He's a gruff, hot-headed man with little patience for incompetence. But there is more to him and his relationship with the soldiers in his squad than we see through just his Vox communications in-game. He's known for being the kind of leader that takes a front position on the battlefield and risks his own safety to ensure as many of his soldiers as possible are able to make it home.
All for scars. He earned crusading men under his command. So what's your lip? Got it?
This loyalty and dedication has fostered a devotion to him amongst his men that is unwavering.
I'd follow that man anywhere.
For most regiments of the Astra Militarum, troops are led by a colonel, and in the case of the Mobian 6, they were led by one Colonel Gorton. He's a noble-born, but coming from a pampered background apparently does not keep him from getting into the gritty work that comes from daily life in the Guard, and the soldiers of the 6th respect him for it.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Gorton would die for any of us. How can we do less?
Aside from Wolfer, there's also Captain Helmag, who's a female officer that has apparently had some trouble having a stiff enough backbone to hang as a leader in the 6th, so it sounds like Wolfer has taken her under his wing.
She needs to toughen up. Captain Helmag relies on Wolfer too much. Leader's gotta lead by herself, right?
We'll be cracking into Helmag and if she might be important later on in the series. There's also a Commissar Magson, who seems to be a real bastard.
Magson killed more of us than the Karkin enemy today.
And a Sergeant Gearin, who the only thing we ever hear about them is that they presumably died.
Sir, this is Sergeant Gearin at Anchor Point Your Home. We need help!
Other notable characters that aren't in the ranks of leadership, but still important, are one Ridenda and Roden Karnak, the highborn blue bloods themselves, who get a reputation for being particularly ruthless and effective soldiers.
Throne! The Karnak twins have punched through! We might just win this!
Overall, the regiment seems pretty tight-knit and functions well enough as a team, until the Mobian 6 is deployed to the death world, Nox Alpha.
We're a long way from Atoma now, ain't we?
Relax. Red horse beer muna. Ang pagre-relax,
Oh,
mapapasarap
I poisoned before.
may lakas.
Come visit beautiful Nox Alpha. Ever heard the phrase, don't drink the water? Well, here you won't want to even breathe the air. Enjoy our many popular sites and locales such as The Void, Grundrak Forest, home of the Weeping Pus Trees, and don't forget to say hi to the Nox Alpha, the nightmares never cease.
Sickly skies, weeping trees, and that smell. Nox Alpha's no paradise world, eh?
In case my scathing sarcasm didn't get the point across, death worlds are awful places where everything, the plants and in the case of Nox Alpha, even the air itself, are actively trying to kill you.
I don't care what anyone says. Air shouldn't taste like that.
The 6 have been deployed to this planet to combat an unknown foe as part of the Fringe War campaign, and despite their combat record and prowess, things don't go well for the 6th.
Platoon fire on my order! Let's show them how the 6th fights! We lost contact with Callan and company during the drop, sir. We're on our own. 5,000 of us gone in 3 hours. This isn't war. It's slaughter.
The Mobians are seemingly hit hard and lose many troops to battle losses. But worse than that, the field of war itself is a literal hellscape, and finding themselves without any gas masks or protective gear, the soldiers start succumbing to unusual diseases.
Sir, the men are getting sick, sir. Real sick. Lost another 3 to the Nox rot last night. Why can't the medics do something? You remember how Dad kept complaining of bellyache? He just burst yesterday. Maggots everywhere. Don't envy the clean-up crew.
And just to put the icing on the shit cake they've been served, something sinister starts reaching into the minds of the troops and touching them with insanity. Dark, strange shadows are reported. Men drop dead just from fear alone. Fear of something that apparently only they were able to see.
You hear something about the spectral figure roaming around out there? They found Marek this morning. Face down in the mud and his eyes wide. Scared to death by something only he could see.
While it isn't just completely spelled out for us, here is what the overall situation on Nox Alpha seems it probably sums to. Nox Alpha isn't just any old regular death world. It is quite possibly a planet that is heavily touched by or directly connected to the realm of Nurgle. Trees weeping pus, toxic air, and dense forests through which only a psyker can see the way through all fit the bill for being things you'd expect to find in the very literal Garden of Nurgle. The many diseases the men contract during their time on the surface are complex and terrible. Medics are unable to treat the Nox rot, and eventually many die to what's known as Lunger's cough. Others begin to bloat and decay on the inside until they eventually burst into a spew of gore and maggots. We actually have heard about diseases that mystify medics before, from Wormwood before the invasion of Tertium truly began.
I visited a nearby zone where I found an aid station and spoke to a medic. She was too afraid of censure to verify specifics, but she told me that the plague does not respond to standard curative treatments.
Alright guys, right after the stream I'm gonna keep on reviewing the process for my work. I don't wanna miss anything. And then yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust my sleep tomorrow especially. So yes, thank you so much for dropping by, and take care. Right, bye bye, take care, see ya.